Hey, well, good morning. You are the chosen. You're a chosen people. Just remember that. Life is good. Do what you like what you do. Well, hey, church, I want to move through over the next, probably, I don't know, maybe even 3 or 4 weeks. First Peter is a great book to get into, and chapter 2, kind of our focus, the conduct of God's people in the midst of suffering. You know, I think for many that's of God's people, Christians, but not just Christians, non-Christian, non-believers, people of all walks of life are in that position right now. They're in a suffering position in more ways than one. Crime is up, finances are down in areas, and it's just there's a struggle. But I want to just take right now just a moment and let's look together at First Peter chapter 2. First Peter chapter 2. Go ahead and turn there if you want to. All right, if we look at verse 11 to start with, it says, "Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul." We're going to stop right there. Remember, this is the conduct of God's people in the midst of suffering, okay? So, and who are the foreigners? You and I. We're foreigners, the believers in this world, the world that we live in now. Our real home, of course, is with God. That's our heavenly home. And which leads to another question or word that I think is a little cliche that we throw around, and I don't know if you've ever been over to towards Portland. I think it's towards Salem area, but Heaven on Earth restaurant. They have some of the best cinnamon rolls. They're huge. They best cookies, baked goods. It's a great place. Been around for a long time. But Heaven on Earth. But what is heaven? Heaven, we've been as a depiction of pink clouds and harps and, paved, roads. And we see that in Revelation a little bit kind of painted in that. But that's a vision that I believe is not the true vision necessarily, because where is heaven? Life in heaven is a place that operates according to God's principles and values. Remember that, God's principles and value, that's heaven. It's a place of order. It's a place that is eternal and unshakable. There's a beautiful word, unshakable. What is unshakable? Is your faith unshakable? Is your character unshakable? Do you go with the flow, possibly? It's a great question to ask yourself as you take self-evaluation. And, look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, am I unshakable today? Because it's important that we are able to plant our feet, we're able to stand in our faith, in our belief, and we're able to just, simply say, hey, man, I love Jesus Christ. I'm imperfect. I'm flawed. I'm scarred. But I love Jesus Christ, and I believe that he is the way to heaven, the way to be reconciled with God. Okay? And another, when did heaven come to earth? Something else to think about. We're just going to tackle this one verse, and because I think it's enough for you to chew on and to go to. We don't need to sit and you listen to a bunch of rhetoric, honestly, for an hour, half hour, to get some critical thinking in and to sit down at your table, at your counter, on the tailgate of your truck, in the park, especially this time of separation from people. It's a time of separation from people, but a time to draw in. And there's a Facebook post going on that it's where God's in the conversation saying it's about time, right? There's no excuses now. because you've been in your home, you've been with your family, you've been getting those honeydews done and those things around the house, beautiful. But are you taking the time to just sit at his feet? So when did heaven come to earth? Well, symbolically of the Jewish tone would be the sanctuary, the tabernacle, and the temple. But when God's presence dwelt, that's where God's presence dwelt. And you understand that God's presence is where heaven is at that time. But in a fuller way, in the person of Christ, it's a matter of fact that God is with us. It's a matter of fact that God is with us. Is God with us each and every moment of our awake time, of our time of sitting at the table, reading his word, having our coffee, watching TV? Is the Holy Spirit dwelling amongst you? You could be having your heaven moment right now, right? So, in that fuller way, in the person of Christ, remember that Christ came as a little baby, but he grew and he showed us the way. He went through the trials and tribulation, through the suffering. He went through those things and did not sin. He was sinless. But he was fully flesh, but he was also filled with the Spirit. The Spirit was empowering him to carry through, just as you and I have the Holy Spirit to carry us through, which leads me to a closing here in the last part of this, that heaven came through the entire world as the Holy Spirit. Isn't that beautiful that you can experience a little piece of heaven right now where you sit? It came through the entire world as the Holy Spirit came to live in every believer. The key word there is that the Holy Spirit came to live in every believer. He lives in us, possibly. If you have asked Jesus Christ into your heart, if you have asked Jesus Christ to help you surrender unto him, to going back to God's principles and values, doesn't mean that we have arrived, but it means that we are trying to arrive. We're living, right? But key word is live in every believer, but does not rule. There lies the problem. We live in this world that is full of other principles, other values. But as we start to be unshakable and we take a firm stance, I believe you will experience heaven on earth. Maybe with a big fat cinnamon roll. All right? Love you guys, and be blessed with this. Dig into it. We're going to, next week, or maybe even sooner, throw this out. Verse 12. Peter gives some great advice, so you can read ahead. All right. Peace. Talk to you soon.